What if literally everything you've been told about human life expectancy is just completely wrong?
I mean, it's a huge question to start with.
Right. But welcome to the deep dive, because today we're taking you, the learner, on this journey that honestly, it dismantles a really fundamental assumption about how and why we age.
Yeah, because usually when we talk about life expectancy, there's this expectation of cold, hard precision.
Exactly. Like you look at a statistical chart, you see the average age ticking up or down by a few months, and we all just kind of accept that this is the absolute biological limit of the human machine.
Right. The doctor points to the data and basically says, there it is. That's how long you get.
It feels so binary.
Yeah, totally binary. We like things to be categorized, to have a definitive finish line. We assume that the aging process we observe around us is just this undeniable law of nature.
But then you step into the world of environmental biology and, well, radical physiological theory, and suddenly that precision it completely falls apart.
It really does.
Because what if the finish line isn't natural at all? Today, we are looking at an incredibly provocative piece of writing. It's an excerpt from Master Insight, #390, The Human Lifespan Limit, by an author named Fuqi Wu, and this was published on June 14th, 2026.
The mission for this deep dive is to explore this truly radical biological thesis.
Right.
Wu is essentially redefining human aging from the ground up.
Right.
And then introducing the complex physics of this fascinating new technology designed to physically unlock our true lifespan.
Which is wild. And just as a quick tone check for you listening, we are not doctors.
No, definitely not.
We aren't here to give medical advice. We are just here to explore this author's incredibly intense, paradigm-shifting ideas and the actual physical science behind them. Okay, let's unpack this, because we aren't just talking about a dry medical lecture today.
No, not at all.
We're looking at a thrilling scientific mystery about something you are literally doing right this exact second, which is breathing.
And it really does start with a complete dismantling of the current scientific consensus. To understand where Wu is coming from, we have to look at why the author is actually quite angry with the global medical community.
Angry is a good word for it.
Yeah, because the medical establishment generally asserts that the absolute maximum human lifespan is somewhere around like 150 years.
Right.
And Wu looks at that number and essentially calls it a profound display of ignorance.
Ignorance because they're measuring the wrong thing entirely. The text argues that human beings today, we don't start with a clean slate.
Exactly.
Wu introduces this concept of an initial health value. And for any modern human, that value actually starts at a negative number.
Yeah, the reasoning there is deeply structural. Before a person's even born, while they're still just developing as an embryo, they're already accumulating environmental toxins.
Wow.
It's just a harsh physical reality of industrial civilization. Metabolic waste, microplastics, industrial byproducts, they're crossing into the reproductive and developmental process.
So even before day one.
Right. From before day one, the individual is carrying a toxic load.
That part of the text really stopped me in my tracks, because it forces you to realize the accumulation doesn't just magically stop at birth.
No, it accelerates, right.
Every single day you are breathing, eating, and drinking trace amounts of toxins. And because of this relentless exposure, Wu says our bodies have fundamentally shifted how they operate.
This is a key point.
Yeah, instead of our metabolism focusing on physiological repair, which is what it should be doing to keep us young and vital, it is forced into a state of passive defense.
Right. All our cellular energy is spent just fighting off the daily intake of poison.
What's fascinating here is the cognitive bias this exposes in the medical field.
Oh, absolutely. Wu is pointing at a massive statistical fallacy here.
Right, because modern medicine looks at humans living in this state of constant low-level toxicity, observes when their organs finally shut down, and calls that the maximum human lifespan.
Yes. They aren't measuring the true biological design limit of the human body. They're measuring the metabolic limit under a toxic load.
Are we basically trying to calculate the absolute top speed of a sports car, but we're doing the test while the car has sand poured directly into its gas tank and then declaring that sluggish speed as the car's absolute physical limit?
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it.
It's crazy to think about.
It is. Because by using a sample population that has been subjected to lifelong pollution, medical science is mistaking a pathological state, a diseased or damaged state, for a normal state.
They're measuring a damaged structure and calling it a baseline.
Exactly. To Wu, Any statistical data based on this poison sample has absolutely zero physical reference value for understanding true human vitality. We simply don't know how long a human can live because, well, we've never observed a human living outside of the poison.
Never. And Wu actually gives a really stark way to visualize this.
The ant analogy, right?
Yes. Imagine an ant that has a biological natural lifespan of 5 days. But on day 2, you spray that ant with a can of bug spray, and it dies immediately. You wouldn't look at that dead ant and write down in your notebook, yes, the natural lifespan of this ant is 2 days.
That would be totally absurd.
Right. Its life didn't reach a natural conclusion. Its life was prematurely terminated by poison.
And Wu connects this directly to humanity. Industrial pollution, the ambient chemicals off-gassing from our furniture, the microplastics in the wind, the aerosols from traffic.
All of it.
Yeah, that is a continuous, invisible cloud of bug spray that we are all living inside of. Our daily existence is happening within that cloud, and it is artificially capping our time on Earth.
Think about the air you are breathing right now as you listen to this, whether you're walking down a city street or sitting in your office or even lounging in your living room.
Especially your living room.
Right. According to this text, you are the ant. And the modern industrial environment around you is actively acting as a forced boundary on your survival.
It's a profound philosophical shift from how we normally view health, isn't it?
Totally.
Wu is drawing a hard line between a natural life length and a controlled death time. Wow. We aren't dying of old age. We're dying because our environment acts as a suffocating perimeter. The medical field is essentially just measuring the rhythm of this slow-motion poisoning and calling it the natural aging process.
Okay, but if we are the ants and an industrial civilization is the bug spray, how do we possibly escape the spray without leaving the planet?
Right.
I mean, I can't just stop breathing. I have to interact with the world.
And that is exactly where Wu shifts from philosophical critique to a physical technological solution.
Okay.
The author introduces the overarching concept of the small heaven ecosystem.
Small heaven.
Yeah. Before we get into the machinery, we have to understand the goal. Small heaven is a forced purification boundary. The philosophy is about physically isolating the human body from the ambient toxicity of the world.
So creating a bubble.
Exactly. A localized bubble, a true baseline environment where your body can finally drop its passive defenses and return to physiological repair.
And the core of this ecosystem, the mechanical heart that makes this small heaven possible, is a device called the Air Eight-Zero Maze Purifier.
Yes.
It's also referred to in the text as the ToxBox, or I think in the original language it's the U.
Yeah, the T-Hai.
Which roughly translates to a substitute death black box, right?
Right. It literally takes the hit so you don't have to.
That is such an intense name. And Wu is very aggressive about pointing out that this is not a medical device. It's not a pharmaceutical drug or some wellness supplement.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Wu is framing this device as a restoration of fundamental biological rights.
Biological rights.
Yeah, it's a physical defense layer. Right now, without it, you're walking around acting as a highly efficient human flesh air purifier for your environment.
Oh, that is a gross image. But true.
It's true. Your lungs are acting as the primary filter, trapping the microplastics and aerosols, and your liver and kidneys are working overtime to process them.
So you're purifying the room with your own organs.
Exactly. The ToxBox is designed to take that brutal burden off your physiology, thereby restoring your physical right to autonomous breathing.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
I'm looking at this concept and I'm thinking, how is this actually different from the HEPA filter I already have sitting in the corner of my living room?
Right.
Like, is this really just a massive industrial fan with a particularly dense net? Because if it's just a fancy HEPA filter, I'm not sure I buy that it completely rewrites the human lifespan.
Well, the physics detailed in Wu's design principle reveal that this operates on a completely different paradigm than standard mechanical filtration.
Okay, how so?
Standard filters, like your HEPA filter, catch things in a physical net. But what happens to the net?
It gets dirty.
Right, it just sits there.
Yeah.
It becomes a storage facility for toxins. Dust mites breed in it, bacteria multiply, and over time, the trapped chemicals can actually off-gas back into your room.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
The ToxBox doesn't just catch pollutants. It actively attacks and dismantles them.
Okay, so take me inside this thing. When the dirty air gets pulled in from my living room, what actually happens first?
It happens in distinct, highly engineered steps. In steps 1 and 2, the air gets pulled into a negative ionization zone combined with dual electrostatic prefilters.
So right at the front door?
Exactly. It intercepts the obvious physical matter, the dust, the pollen, the larger microplastics. But then the air hits the second ionization zone.
And this is where it changes.
Yeah, this is where it goes from a net to a chemical battlefield. This zone neutralizes pathogens, but its primary function is to intentionally inject a massive negative electrical charge into all the remaining ultrafine particles and microscopic aerosols that manage to slip through the first stage.
So it's essentially painting a highly magnetic target on the back of every single microscopic toxin left in the air.
Exactly.
But why? Why do they need to be negatively charged?
Because of what awaits them in steps 3 and 4, the actual electrostatic dust collection maze.
Phase.
Yes. This is the core of the ToxBox. The air doesn't just flow through a straight tube or a flat screen, it enters a brutal labyrinth. The text calls it the multiple force impaction effect.
Sounds violent.
It is. The air is forced through dozens of narrow maze channels, experiencing over 60 incredibly sharp turns and hole crossings.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just drifting through, right? It's moving at high speed.
The high-speed airflow is crucial to the physics. Because of inertia, when the rushing air whips around one of these 60 sharp corners, the heavier particles suspended in the air simply can't make the turn.
They just can't corner that fast.
Exactly. They're forced off their path.
So it's like forcing these microscopic toxins into a high-speed, inescapable pinball machine, where every single bumper is a wildly powerful, sticky electromagnet.
That is a very accurate visualization.
Yeah.
The walls of this maze, the electrode plates, are carrying a massive positive charge.
And the toxins are negative.
Right. Remember, the toxins were painted with a negative charge back in step 2. Opposites attract. So as they fail to make these high-speed turns due to inertia, they violently crash directly into the positively charged walls and are instantly pinned there by static electricity.
The text points out that this combination covers absolutely everything in the air. The large particles crash into the walls because they have too much mass to make the turn, and the ultra-tiny particles, which, might have been able to drift around the corner.
They get yanked.
Yeah, they are yanked into the walls by the raw static electric attraction.
And Wu highlights what they call a microelectroplating effect.
What is that?
Well, aerosols are essentially tiny microscopic droplets of liquid carrying suspended chemical toxins.
Right.
When they crash into these highly charged walls, the continuous high-speed airflow dries them up instantly. The moisture evaporates, and the raw chemical toxins are permanently locked onto the positive plates.
So they are literally electroplated onto the metal.
Exactly. And Wu claims this specific physical mechanism results in a 100% purification rate per single pass.
100%.
Not a single microparticle escapes to the exhaust vent.
Okay, if this actually works the way Wu claims, that sounds great, but it raises a massive red flag for me.
Uh-oh. What's the red flag?
If I have a machine that is successfully trapping 100% of the most dangerous, toxic, nasty stuff in my environment with perfect efficiency,
Yeah.
eventually that internal labyrinth is going to be completely full. Doesn't the machine just become a highly concentrated box of poison sitting in my house?
This raises an important question, and it addresses the fatal flaw of traditional air purifiers we discussed earlier.
Right.
The ToxBox handles this exact problem in step 4 sync, which is aerosol decomposition.
Decomposition.
Right. It doesn't just trap the toxins against the wall and leave them there. It destroys them at the molecular level.
Destroying them? How? Like, it's not burning them in my living room, is it?
No. There are no sparks, no combustion, and no heat required. It uses continuous electrochemical oxidation and electrostatic absorption.
Okay, break that down for me.
Because the toxins are violently pinned against these high-voltage positive plates, the intense electric field triggers a molecular decomposition. It forces a brutal exchange of electrons that destabilizes the chemical bonds of the toxins.
Oh, wow. And the source material gives a really specific chemical example of this, which I think really helps ground the physics.
The formaldehyde example.
Yes, it talks about formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is that harsh chemical smell you get from, like, new furniture, fresh paint, or synthetic carpets.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, and it is highly toxic to human cells over time. Its chemical formula is HCHO.
Right. And as that formaldehyde molecule is pinned to the electrode plate, the continuous high electric field oxidizes it. It literally rips the molecule apart and recombines the atoms, turning toxic HCHO into CO2 carbon dioxide and H2O water.
It turns poison gas into the stuff we naturally exhale and the stuff we drink.
Yes.
It's essentially acting as an active chemical refinery in miniature.
And because it's converting the physical mass of the dangerous toxins into harmless, basic gases that just float away, The filter is fundamentally self-cleaning.
That solves the clogging issue.
Exactly. It frees up physical space on the electrode plate to catch the next incoming toxin. It never just fills up with sludge like a traditional net.
But even with a chemical refinery happening inside, I mean, eventually any machine gets overwhelmed by the sheer volume of a polluted room.
Sure.
How does it not just burn out the front section of the maze immediately? The first corner of that pinball machine is going to take a massive beating.
That brings us to step 5, which Wu calls progressive saturation, or the relay race design.
Relay race.
Yeah, the maze isn't just one monolithic block. It's engineered into sequential, independent zones. When the dirty air first enters the labyrinth, the very first zone does all the heavy lifting.
Okay.
But over time, as that first zone slowly starts to reach its saturation limit and its efficiency drops slightly, the particles just travel a millimeter further into the maze, and the pristine second zone catches them.
So it naturally passes the baton deeper into the machine.
Exactly. As one zone fills up, the next takes over the primary workload without you having to change a filter.
That's brilliant.
It is. This progressive design drastically extends the functional life of the machine, ensuring that the 100% efficiency metric never drops, even as the device ages over years of continuous use.
All right, so it's a molecular slaughterhouse in there.
That's one way to put it.
We've pulled the air in, we've stripped out the big stuff with pre-filters, we've electrocuted the tiny stuff to give it a magnetic negative charge.
Right.
We ran it through a 60-turn high-speed pinball maze. We chemically vaporized the formaldehyde into water and carbon dioxide.
You've got it.
After all of that violence, what is actually blowing out of the vent into my living room? Is it just normal air again?
Well, it's far from normal. That brings us to step 6, the final output, which Wu refers to as HeavenAir plus air.
HeavenAir plus air.
Yeah, this is the creation of 100% non-toxic, purely pristine air.
And the author makes a really fascinating distinction here between this output and natural air.
Right, because people think natural is perfect.
Exactly. You might intuitively think, oh, it just makes my living room smell like a pristine pine forest. But Wu argues that a forest is actually full of biological hazards.
It is.
A forest has mold spores. A forest has decomposing matter and bacteria. Even a theoretical, perfectly untouched natural environment produces biological aerosols.
But HeavenAir Plus does not.
Yeah.
It is an engineered purity that raw nature simply doesn't produce.
Wow.
Wu lists the 8 zero qualities of this specific output. 0 dust, 0 bacteria, 0 toxins, 0 smoke, 0 odor, 0 heavy metals, 0 microplastics, and 0 aerosols.
It is a total biological blank slate.
Exactly.
Which brings us all the way back to the core thesis of this entire document. Wu makes one final critical point about this HeavenAir Plus that really reframes the entire conversation.
Yeah.
Breathing this air does not magically make you healthier. It is not a fountain of youth serum that artificially extends your life or gives you superhuman longevity.
Precisely. It simply prevents you from being continuously poisoned. It stops the premature termination of your life by removing the daily toxic friction.
Bringing it full circle to the ant.
The ToxBox, this entire elaborate physical labyrinth, is ultimately just the act of putting a heavy glass dome over the ant so the bug stray can no longer reach it.
Right.
The ant doesn't become an immortal, magical super ant. It just finally, for the first time in modern history, gets the uninterrupted opportunity to live out its true, natural biological potential. It gets to live its full 5 days.
So what does this all mean? It means that according to Wu, our perceived physical limitations, like the chronic fatigue we all feel, the cellular breakdown we call aging, the 150-year hard cap on human existence, these might actually just be the symptoms of a polluted habitat. We have totally normalized living in a state of constant physiological siege.
And by employing a pure physical defense mechanism, we can stop the siege.
Right.
We can redefine the lifespan, not by adding some experimental new drug to the body, but by refusing to let the environment take anything more away. We finally stop the statistical fallacy of measuring a poison sample.
I want to thank you, the learner, for going on this incredibly intense journey with us today. To really grasp what Wu is saying, you have to be willing to look at the incredibly mundane act of breathing and realize how heavily contested it is.
It really is.
Redefining our lifespan starts by fundamentally refusing to accept our toxic environment as normal.
It requires questioning the very baseline of what it means to be healthy in the modern world, and recognizing that our bodies are incredibly resilient when they aren't forced to constantly play defense.
I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over today. If the very air we breathe is a hidden friction that is artificially capping our lifespan, and removing that friction through sheer physics could actually rewrite our biological expiration date, it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what other invisible frictions in our modern life are we blindly accepting as just normal aging?
Right, like what else is out there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are we living under the constant, unnatural glare of artificial blue light? Is the relentless digital stress of our devices or, the low-level continuous acoustic noise of the city acting as another form of slow-motion bug spray? What else in your daily life is quietly acting as a forced boundary on your true biological potential?
That is a vital question to carry forward. Keep questioning the invisible boundaries of the environment you inhabit.
Join us next time as we keep exploring the ideas that challenge the world as we know it. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.